High Counselor Vexitira trembled slightly as she adjusted her ceremonial robes. The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Cooperative floated in geosynchronous orbit above Harmonious Prime, its crystalline dome offering an unobstructed view of the serene planet below. Representatives from over 200 species filled the tiered seating, their soft murmurs creating a gentle ambience that matched the peaceful purpose of today's assembly. Distinguished delegates, Vexitira's melodic voice carried through the chamber's perfect acoustics. We gather to finalize the Frontier Expansion Treaty, which will open unexplored regions to cooperative development while preserving ecological. A piercing alarm cut through her words. The chamber's lighting shifted to emergency crimson as security barriers engaged. Unauthorized vessel approaching, announced the automated system. Unknown configuration, ignoring hailing protocols. Ambassador Cluth, a methane-breathing pholid whose species had achieved space travel 5 millennia ago, leaned toward his aide. Another diplomatic protest from the Grezik hegemony? Scanners indicate. It's not in our database, High Counselor, reported Security Chief Novoxy, her translucent tentacles dancing across the control interface. But energy signatures suggest primitive fusion technology? The chamber erupted in confused chatter. Fusion was obsolete by galactic standards, abandoned centuries ago for cleaner gravitational manipulation drives. External view screens activated, displaying a rugged vessel that appeared cobbled together from industrial materials. Its hull showed visible weld marks and patches of different metals, evidence of manual repairs rather than molecular reconfiguration. Most alarming were the scorch marks and what appeared to be impact craters across its surface. "By the eternal void," whispered Ambassador Quilzor of the Unified Democracies. "That ship has been in combat." The concept was almost incomprehensible to the assembled delegates. Interspecies warfare had been eliminated through the cooperative's influence 2,000 years ago. A communication request flashed across the chamber's systems. Against protocol, the ship's transmission automatically overrode security blocks, the view screen filled with a face that caused several delegates to instinctively recoil. The creature had exposed dermal tissue, no protective exoskeleton or scales, with patches of fur concentrated at the top of its head. Its mouth contained visible bone-white cutting implements, and its eyes were forward-facing like an apex predator. "Greetings, Galactic Council," the creature spoke in surprisingly fluent standard. "I'm Captain Morrigan Blackwood of the independent vessel Relentless Pursuit, representing Earth and humanity. We've discovered your little cooperative, and we'd like to introduce ourselves properly." The chamber fell silent as bioscanners completed their analysis. The results appeared on each delegate's personal console. "Impossible," Vexitira breathed. "Class 12 Deathworld origin?" Across the chamber, delegates began activating personal protection fields. Some species were already retreating toward emergency evacuation pods. "We come in peace," Captain Blackwood said, smiling broadly and displaying even more of those terrifying cutting edges in her mouth. "Permission to dock and send representatives?" Docking Bay 7 had been cleared of all non-essential personnel. 3 full security teams positioned themselves behind protective barriers, their non-lethal suppression weapons powered but set to minimal discharge. Medical units stood ready with cross-species sedatives. High Counselor Vexitira had insisted on greeting the humans personally, though her security chief had nearly suffered respiratory failure at the suggestion. "The airlock is cycling," Novoxy reported, her voice unusually tense. "Atmosphere analysis shows they're breathing unfiltered oxygen at percentages that would be toxic to 86% of Council species." "Weapons scan?" Vexitira inquired. "Inconclusive. Their bodies contain too many metallic elements to distinguish between implants and carried items." The inner airlock door slid open. 3 humans stepped forward, and several security officers instinctively stepped back. Captain Blackwood was flanked by 2 others, a taller figure with darker pigmentation and a stockier, one with intricate patterns engraved into the skin of its exposed arms, deliberate scarification that made several delegates flinch visibly. "High Counselor," Blackwood said, performing a respectful gesture that involved exposing her vulnerable neck. "Thank you for receiving us despite our unannounced arrival. This is Dr. Zafir Orlov, our xenobiologist, and Commander Indra Kalani, our security chief." The scarified human, Commander Kalani, surveyed the security teams with casual interest, as though mentally cataloging their tactical positions. Dr. Orlov carried what appeared to be a primitive data device that clicked audibly as it measured radiation levels. "Fascinating architecture," Orlov commented. "The gravitational harmonizers in your docking clamps use principles we've only recently theorized." "You've analyzed our technology already?" Novaxi questioned sharply. Kalani gave what appeared to be an expression of amusement. "Doc here can't help himself. Starts reverse engineering stuff just by looking at it." "Please, join us in the diplomatic reception chamber," Vexatira interjected. "We have many questions about your homeworld and species." As they walked through the pristine corridors, Ambassador Cluth approached carefully. His species communicated, partially through release of pheromone compounds, and he seemed distressed by the humans' unpredictable movements. "If I may inquire," he began, "our records indicate Class 12 Deathworlds produce species with extreme durability and aggressive tendencies. How did your kind achieve spaceflight without eliminating yourselves?" Captain Blackwood laughed, a sharp barking sound that caused a nearby Malosian delegate to deploy defensive spines. "Oh, we tried our best to wipe ourselves out multiple times. Nuclear weapons, biological warfare, climate collapse. Survival just made us more determined and adaptable." The reception chamber fell silent. Nuclear weapons had been banned for 15,000 years across the cooperative. The concept of a species developing them, using them, and surviving was incomprehensible. "Perhaps a demonstration would help ease tensions," suggested Dr. Orlov, reaching into his pack. Several security officers raised their suppression wands. Orlov produced a small fruit. "Earth apple, completely harmless to most carbon-based life. Observe." He bit into it with an audible crunch, revealing that humans consumed unprocessed organic matter with their cutting implements. Commander Kalani casually leaned against a support column that was designed to hold 30 times her mass. The column groaned slightly as she pressed against it, revealing that the humans possessed strength disproportionate to their size. "We're curious," Captain Blackwood said, smiling again. "How many other Deathworld species have joined your cooperative?" The Grand Council reconvened with unprecedented security measures in place. Several delegates had formally requested to attend via holographic projection rather than share physical space with the humans. "What do you mean you've never encountered? Class 12 species before?" Captain Blackwood asked, genuinely surprised. "There must be others." High Counselor Vexatira's voice was carefully modulated to project calm. "In our 12,000 years of cooperative exploration, we've documented 17 species from Class 8 through Class 10 worlds. Only 3 achieved spaceflight, and all self-destructed during their industrial development phase." Dr. Orlov was taking notes with alarming enthusiasm. "Fascinating. Earth must represent an evolutionary outlier then. The gravitational stress, atmospheric toxins, predator pressure, and geological instability forced our ancestors through extreme selection pressures." The cooperative's chief xenobiologist, Zilnox, cautiously approached the human's table. Her species resembled delicate crystalline structures that conducted thoughts through light patterns. "If I may," she began, projecting soothing blue wavelengths, "our analysis of your physiology reveals concerning adaptations. Your endoskeletal structure contains calcium, a metal. Your respiration requires corrosive oxygen concentrations. Your Digestive system tolerates acidic compounds that would dissolve most sentient tissues. Commander Kalani shrugged. You should see what we drink for enjoyment. Fermented grain alcohol would sterilize your medical equipment. A ripple of alarm spread through the chamber. But what truly concerns us, continued Zilnox, is your species' apparent comfort with pain and physical damage. Captain Blackwood smiled. Ah, you noticed the sports footage in our cultural exchange package? The view screen activated, displaying humans voluntarily colliding with each other in various competitive activities. Wrestling, rugby, martial arts tournaments. The delegates watched in horror as humans deliberately subjected themselves to impacts that would shatter most species' exoskeletons. This is recreation? Ambassador Quilzor asked, his eye stalks retracting protectively. Builds character, Commander Kalani said, tapping a visible scar across her forearm. This? Bar fight on Titan Station. Guy pulled a plasma cutter. I took it away and beat him unconscious with it. Several delegates immediately requested to be excused. Dr. Orloff attempted diplomacy. We understand our biology and culture might seem alarming, but humans are fundamentally explorers and cooperators. We've unified our planet and established colonies throughout our solar system. After how many global conflicts? Asked Security Chief Novoxy pointedly. 3 world wars, countless regional conflicts, Captain Blackwood answered honestly. But we learned, eventually. Ambassador Cluth's methane sacs inflated with distress. And your spacecraft. The damage patterns suggest recent weapons fire. Ah, that. Commander Kalani grinned. Pirates in the Kuiper Belt. Thought they'd found easy prey. They learned differently. Pirates? Within your own system? Vexatira was aghast. Your authorities permit such lawlessness? Not permit, Captain Blackwood clarified. But space is vast. Our frontier regions have to handle their own security sometimes. The implications settled uncomfortably across the chamber. Humans not only survived their death world. They thrived in environments that would kill most species, fought for recreation, consumed toxins for pleasure, and handled violence as a routine occurrence. Most disturbing of all, they seemed completely unaware of how terrifying they appeared. It's the 3rd consecutive day of negotiations, announced the Council's official record keeper, and 17 member species have formally requested reclassification of humans as a potential existential threat. Captain Blackwood had removed her outer garment in the warmth of the council chamber, revealing arms crisscrossed with healed injuries. That seems excessive, she observed. We're just interested in trade relations and cultural exchange. Dr. Orloff was engaged in animated conversation with a group of curious scientists who had overcome their initial terror. He casually mentioned human medical practices that sounded like torture to the gathered xenobiologists. You deliberately stop your hearts for surgical procedures? Asked researcher Fozil, her translucent membranes pulsating with distress. Temporary cardiac arrest is standard for certain operations, Orlov confirmed. We've advanced to nanoscale surgical techniques now, but invasive procedures remain common. You cut open your bodies while conscious? Another scientist clarified. Oh no, we developed anesthetics, Orlov assured them. Though regional anesthesia means you're awake while they operate on you, you just can't feel it. 3 researchers immediately excused themselves. Meanwhile, Commander Kalani had drawn a crowd of security personnel who watched with horrified fascination as she demonstrated human martial arts forms. This technique targets nerve clusters, she explained, executing a precise strike that would have permanently paralyzed most species. And this one can fracture load-bearing bone structures. But why develop such skills? Asked a Tyrillian officer, whose species had evolved perfect camouflage to avoid confrontation. Because others might have them, Kalani answered simply. Humans prepare for worst-case scenarios. In the central chamber, diplomatic relations had reached a critical juncture. The Cooperative's Threat Assessment Committee had categorized humanity as unpredictable apex predators with technological capability. We simply request that human expansion be contained to your solar system until proper integration protocols can be established, explained Ambassador Quilzor. Captain Blackwood's expression hardened, a subtle shift that nevertheless triggered defensive postures from nearby delegates. Containment is unacceptable, she stated flatly. Humanity has already established outposts beyond our system. We've explored over 40 light-years in all directions from Earth. The statement sent shockwaves through the assembly. The Galactic Cooperative had spent millennia meticulously expanding, terraforming only uninhabited worlds assessed as Class 5 or lower, establishing careful ecological balance. Without supervision or ecological impact studies, gasped High Counselor Vextira. We follow our own protocols, Blackwood assured her. But humanity's drive to explore can't be contained by external restrictions. The chamber erupted in anxious discussion. There's something else you should know, Dr. Orlov added, his voice cutting through the noise. We're not alone in our approach. To space, Earth's various nations have competing space programs. We represent only one faction of humanity. The implications silenced the chamber completely. Multiple independent groups of Deathworlders were already moving through space, each with their own agendas and methods. If you attempt to impose restrictions, Captain Blackwood continued calmly, you won't be dealing with unified human leadership. You'll face dozens of separate human governments, corporations, and independent colonization efforts, many of which don't recognize any authority beyond their own. Security Chief Novoxi's tentacles had turned pale with stress. Your species lacks unified command structure? How do you prevent conflict? Commander Kalani laughed. We don't always. That's why we're good at surviving it. On the final day of what would later be called the Deathworlder Crisis Summit, the Grand Council chamber had been reconfigured. The humans now occupied a central position, no longer treated as visitors but as a fundamental challenge to the Cooperative's understanding of galactic civilization. High Counselor Vexitira had spent sleepless cycles consulting the Cooperative's oldest records. In our earliest histories, she addressed the assembly, before the Cooperative formed, several member species pursued aggressive expansion. Those impulses were tempered through thousands of years of philosophical and social development. Captain Blackwood nodded respectfully. Humanity compressed that development into a few centuries. We're still evolving our approach. What troubles us, Ambassador Cluth interjected, is not merely your biology or history, but your fundamental outlook. You view the galaxy as a frontier to be conquered rather than a garden to be tended. Dr. Orlov leaned forward. Not conquered, explored. Humans thrive on challenge. Our adaptability comes from facing the unknown. The assembly quieted as emergency signals activated. A communication officer's voice echoed through the chamber. High Counselor, we've detected 3 additional vessels of human design approaching Council space. Their configurations differ from the relentless pursuit. Visual confirmation appeared. On the central displays, 3 ships, each bearing different insignia and construction styles than Blackwood's vessel. The Chinese Interstellar Exploration Mission, identified Dr. Orlov, pointing to the sleek vessel with red star markings. The United African Nations Deep Space Research Ship, he continued, indicating the vessel with geometric patterns adorning its hull. And that's a corporate mining operation from the Martian conglomerate, Commander Kalani smirked. Told you we weren't alone out here. The Council erupted in barely controlled panic. Not 1, but 4 separate human expeditions had independently discovered the Cooperative within days of each other. This changes everything, announced Ambassador Quilzor. We must establish immediate containment protocols. Captain Blackwood stood slowly, a simple motion that nonetheless commanded the room's attention. With respect, Ambassador, you fundamentally misunderstand humanity. Attempts to contain us will only accelerate our expansion. She gestured toward the displayed ships. These expeditions represent competing human interests, but they share our core traits: adaptability, resilience, and determination. Trying to restrict humanity won't protect you. It will only ensure we see you as obstacles rather than potential allies. High Counselor Vexatira's ceremonial robes rustled as she rose. What would you propose instead, Captain? Partnership, Blackwood said simply. Humanity brings qualities your cooperative lacks. Innovation born from struggle, adaptability forged through survival, perspectives shaped by evolution on a world that tried to kill us daily. In return, your wisdom and experience could help temper our more impulsive tendencies. Dr. Orlov stepped forward. Our scientists have already identified dozens of technologies we could help improve through human innovation. Your gravitational drives are elegant but inefficient. Your medical sciences lack adaptability for emergency situations. And your security protocols have significant vulnerabilities, added Commander Kalani bluntly. I identified 17 ways to disable this station's core systems within an hour of boarding. Rather than causing outrage, her statement was met with solemn acknowledgement. The cooperative had existed so long without true threats that its defenses had become ceremonial. High Counselor Vexatira addressed the assembly. For 12 millennia, we have expanded gradually, bringing order and harmony to the galaxy. Now we face a species born of chaos, shaped by struggle, thriving on challenge. Our paths could not be more different. She turned to Captain Blackwood. Yet perhaps that is precisely why this moment matters. The cooperative has not faced true adaptation in thousands of years. Perhaps we need the challenge you represent. The chamber fell silent as delegates contemplated the radical notion. The Deathworlders weren't just another species to be integrated. They were a catalyst that would fundamentally transform galactic civilization. A provisional alliance, Vexatira proposed, between humanity and the cooperative, not to contain your expansion, but to guide it. Not to suppress your nature, but to channel it. Captain Blackwood extended her hand, a uniquely human gesture of agreement that required physical contact. After a moment's hesitation, High Counselor Vexatira reached out with her six-fingered hand and completed the gesture. Throughout the chamber, delegates watched in astonishment as predator and prey, chaos and order, survival and harmony found their first tenuous connection. Commander Kalani leaned toward Dr. Orlov and whispered, 10 credits says they build statues of us someday. Orlov smiled. No bet. Humans always leave their mark, especially when we crash the party. From that day forward, the galaxy would never be the same. The Deathworlders had arrived, and with them came the winds of change that would either strengthen the cooperative or tear it apart. Either way, humanity had announced its presence to the stars not with conquest, but with a far more human quality, disruption that forced evolution. The age of harmony was over. The age of adaptation had begun.